What's up, y'all? One Piece One Life here, and guys, Blackbeard fans rejoice. Yo mans is no longer fatherless. As Drake would say, Daddy's home. Cause in the latest chapter of One Piece, it's about to be major spoilers in case you couldn't tell. Oda revealed Rocks D. Xebec himself and confirmed that he is the father of Blackbeard. And listen, I'm not even a big Blackbeard fan like that, but you have to see this and admit, Oda just put him on the map in a serious way. And on top of that, the fourth strongest person in One Piece history is black. Yes, I've prayed for times like this. As JD Legend so eloquently put it,
I got my joy back. I got it. I got my joy back.
Goodbye to the dragon is Rox's son theory. We have a better one. Okay, hype aside though, this little last bit that we got about him really recontextualizes both him and Blackbeard and what we know of them in the story. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. How Xebec is the missing piece in One Piece. But before we do a deep dive on someone who will probably become one of my favorite characters in the series, do something for me, y'all. I need y'all to like the video, okay? Very important. Subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content just like this every week, especially the hype ones. And share it around with all your friends who love the series. You know what we always say here, let's get it going. Also, if you're wondering why I'm wearing a suit, just know business moves were made. But honestly, this chapter and discussion is so important, it warrants a suit. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that we are currently seeing Rocks before he actually forms the Rocks Pirates. And as we see, even as he lands on Elbaf, he already has a small group following him, because we see young Whitebeard, young Shiki, and a young woman who's also part of their group. So first off, this was his version of East Blue? Young Whitebeard and young Shiki? Oh, it's getting crazy. We're about to get the kind of Zoro and Sanji parallels here the same way that we got with Rayleigh and Gaban. But now this begs the question, who is the woman that's with him? At first I was like, is that Big Mom? And I was kind of running away with it because it made sense to me. If it was Big Mom, then that means that, you know, obviously her story ties in with the Giants. So maybe Rocks is here on her behalf, either to get revenge on the Giants or, you know, kind of follow up on that plotline. Well, it isn't. Our earliest records of Big Mom show that she was at least 24 years old when she was on the Rocks crew. Since this flashback is taking place 48 years ago, Big Mom would have only been 20. So then you're thinking, well, if not her, then who? The only other women that we know of to have been confirmed members of Rocks' crew were Gloriosa and Stussy. Considering we know that she left her post as Amazon Lily's empress to curb her quite literal love sickness, a lot of people have implied from this that the person that Gloriosa fell in love with and left for is a member of Rocks' crew. Even if it is Stussy, that would still make sense because we know that she loves Whitebeard, so you know, their history probably started here. But we have this ragtag group, right? And in the next chapter, we're about to get them talking to Loki because they landed on Elbaf for the first time. But that really begs the question, why the hell are they actually on Elbaf? Why does he want King Harold? From the way it's been talking and set up, it seems like they were specifically searching out Elbaf for a purpose, which means that they may be here to take something forcibly from it. Everyone's first assumption naturally would probably be the legendary devil fruit, whichever one that Loki ended up eating. Which, by the way, we still don't actually know what that fruit power is. But personally, I've kind of taken to the idea that it's the destroyer god evil parallel to Luffy's sun god fruit. You know, a darker version of the sun god fruit because with different interpretations, devil fruits can manifest that into different powers. But if it's not the legendary devil fruit, what other options are there? Perhaps he learned of some information that would be vital in, you know, the building up of his crew or empire. Whether that be the Giants' army and manpower, since we know from a lot of context clues in Elbaf that the Giants and their allegiance is going to be very important for the final war. Or maybe it's literally Elbaf's resources itself, like we know that the Atom Wood is there. And do y'all remember that Oda confirmed Blackbeard's hobby is archaeology? Well, what if he got that from Xebec? Because I'm imagining a world where if he did, then it would make sense for Xebec to know a lot about the first and second worlds because during his archaeological digging, that's the information that he found out. Hence why he knows that Elbaf is important. On top of that, the fact that he in fact did not kill Harold is making me think that, yeah, he came for a business type of meeting instead of a fight. But there is also a little part of my mind that kind of wants to unravel the whole killing Harold thing, which leads really nicely into the Reverie incident. As we're told in this chapter, Rocks literally killed an admiral and escaped. But that's all the context we get on it, so we're still wondering what actually happened at this time. That occurred 56 years ago, so I checked the timelines to see what else was happening significant during that year. The only other thing we know of that happened is that is the year that Garp, Sengoku, and Tsuru joined the Marines. So you can't help but wonder, does that have something to do with it? I know it was during a Reverie, and so as new recruits they probably didn't have any bearings on that. Maybe that admiral was even the reason one or more of them got introduced to the Marines in the first place, or inspired them. I mean, think about it. Let's say that admiral inspired Garp to join the Marines. Garp joins, and then in the same year he joins, Rox D. Xebec pulls up into the Reverie, kills him, and then dips. Garp, of all people, being as close to that admiral as he could have been, he would understand the threat that Rox possesses. Therefore, teaming up with Roger later on to fight Rox, it makes a lot more sense because he's like, oh, I definitely realize I'm gonna need to team up with anybody I can to beat this guy. Who knows? Food for thought. And then you start wondering, okay, Xebec is looking for Harold, why? It seems to imply to me that it's because something happened back then that he was only able to get around to now. I'm thinking he was either trying to kill him because he saw something, or he's trying to get information from Harold because he was also snuck in. Almost like a, oh, I remember you, you're the king of Elbaf, well, maybe when I'm building my evil empire, you'll join me. Then the next thing to ask about that is, who was this admiral? Obviously not that we know of them. I don't think we could know of them. I mean, they're dead. But keep in mind that this is around the same era that Kong is an admiral. So Kong may have even seen one of his fellow friends, go down. Mind you, this is pre-prime strength Rox. He's gotta be the strongest human character in history. And the reason he's classified as human character is because I'm not including people like Ryuma, Imu, and Joy Boy. They're gods, not literal gods, but you get what I mean. And when I think about the fact that he wasn't in his prime, it makes me think about God Valley. The God Valley incident doesn't happen for another 18 years in the future from this flashback. So if we assume God Valley to be his peak strength, that means that he was almost 2 decades removed from being anywhere near his peak and still managed to kill an admiral. And if he's that strong, it also makes me question, how much of the history do we know is true? We know that Roger and Garp had to come together to fight him, but was that it? Because remember, Sengoku did mention their greatest weakness was not any other enemy banding together or anything outside. They were always fighting amongst each other, always trying to one-up each other, sabotage each other. So that makes me wonder if someone could have betrayed Rox in a way that literally sealed his fate. And of everybody on the Rox crew, I think that person could have been Whitebeard. I imagine that Whitebeard sees Rox going way too out of control and is like, nah, this isn't the world that I want, the family that I want to curate to live in. And so he does something vital that allows for Roger and Garp to overpower him. And nobody's gonna say that this is weird for Whitebeard's character, right? Now I want to talk a little bit about Rox's motivation. We know the story. Rox wants to be king of the world and tear down the government system, install himself, everything like that. Rule, basically. It sounds about as classically evil as you can get, but something tells me that there's more to that. I wonder if the reason that Loki was able to be inspired by him so much is because Rox himself had such a similar backstory or upbringing, where everybody hated him, everybody was looking down on him, and so he wanted to be king of the world to prove himself. Almost like taking matters into his hands and owning that. And so through Loki's story, what we're getting is a version of Rox where he was able to redeem himself and eventually become a good guy despite the lack of love that he got. I don't know, I'm just saying the parallels are there. And it's not like the idea that Rox wasn't as evil as everybody paints him out to be is that far-fetched either. We know that the government hates real bad on anyone even remotely trying to change the status quo. Just look at Dragon. Now we've talked a lot about Rox, and as it should be, this is his moment to shine. But this also recontextualizes a lot about Blackbeard. As I mentioned before, this may be where he gets his innate interest in archaeology from, either because Xebec loved archaeology and actually taught him about it as well, or more in an indirect way where Xebec never taught him, but he heard stories about what his father did and wanted to almost like continue his research, or realize the answers that his father never got to. Of course, there's the Saber of Xebec, which is how this entire theory started way back in the day. But interestingly, this whole Rox thing has given a lot of credence for people of the multiple souls theory. In case you haven't heard it, it's basically a theory stating that the reason that Blackbeard can't sleep and seems like he's doing all these different things is because it's actually 3 souls inhabiting the same body, represented in the fact that a lot of his stuff is always trios. So it'd be really interesting if Rox's soul was actually one of the souls in there and he was able to place his soul in his son. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that his body is weird and therefore can accept multiple souls. And then of course the idea being that the reason he can eat multiple fruits is because the multiple souls allow for like a soul to a fruit basically, and not just a body. One of the aspects that for me kind of flies below the radar for a lot of people is how it recontextualizes Ace versus Blackbeard. It's now a literal battle of sons and the sins of their fathers, one rejecting their fate, while one is enamored by it. One pushing back against the will of his father, while the other is actively seeking that will out. And then you think about Whitebeard and his whole place in this, and you just gotta think, Whitebeard definitely knew. You think that there's a chance that Whitebeard in this moment right here didn't know that Blackbeard was Rox's son? You're kidding yourself. Think about it. That's the reason why he didn't want Ace to go off the handle and fight him. Because he knew what would happen. He knows the kind of people that Blackbeard and Rox are. And then it also kind of places Whitebeard as the uncle who's just in the middle, seeing two of his nephews go at it. Whole time, the control of his family is spiraling and led to the events of the Paramount War. Now we got to thinking, what's the circumstances behind Blackbeard's birth? Blackbeard was already 2 years old when the God Valley incident happened. So when did Rox have the time to go off and have a kid? Also, who the hell is Blackbeard's mom? And where did the Marshall D name come from? I'm assuming the mom, but like, do we know that? There's a chance that the Marshall D name doesn't exist, and maybe that ties into why Vegapunk during his speech said that there's a fake D amongst you. And now for some uncomfortable convos. Where does this place Blackbeard in terms of his overall strength? I know a lot of people use this to solidify Blackbeard now as top 1, and I'm not even gonna lie to you, I can't really blame you for it. I initially had and have always continued to say that as of the last thing that we saw from Blackbeard fight-wise, which was him huffing and puffing against Trafalgar Law, he was somewhere in the region of 11th or 12th strongest after the Gorosei were introduced. And I always said that he would definitely be top 5 strongest characters, maybe even in history by the end of the series, but we just need to see him actually get, the power boost and get that upgrade that we all know he sorely needs. He's gonna fight endgame Luffy, which means he needs to definitely be stronger than what we see of him right now. Cause say what you want, Egghead Luffy is moonwalking on the Blackbeard that fought Law. However, now with this, knowing that it's confirmed that Rox is his dad, it doesn't feel right to not boost Blackbeard's place. The reason being that family portrayal in One Piece is highly important. You can look at families in One Piece and track and see their strength and importance tying through the family. I mean, it's literally the reason why I put Shamrock in the top 10 when I was estimating how strong he is, which is a video you should definitely check out after this one. There's no doubt that now that he's confirmed as Rox's son, and coupled with the fact that we know he definitely scarred Shanks, like not under some trickery, he just straight up scarred him. With the threat that he possesses, it only feels natural to bump him up even a bit. So now, if anybody asks me, he's at number 7. With Luffy being 6, and my top 5 being a combination of Emu, Shanks, Shamrock, Garling, and Mihawk. Don't ask me about Dragon. But here's the thing, even more in need of a power boost than Blackbeard is his crew. Cause the sad part is, y'all, no matter how strong you think Blackbeard is, even if he ends up being top 1 at the end of the series, the unfortunate fact of the matter is that besides Aokiji, who cannot even really be said to be counted as his crew because we obviously know that he's not really with them and is gonna betray him, nobody on Blackbeard's crew can even dream of being anywhere near the top 30. So Oda, I don't know how you're gonna balance this, but do it quick. But that's the end of the video, y'all, and I want to know what you think about Rox. You think he's gonna turn out to be the best villain in One Piece? How deep do you think his story really is? Let me know all that and everything else you're thinking in the comments below. That is the end of the video, y'all, but y'all know what to do. Like it, subscribe, share it around with all your friends who love the series, or anime and manga in general. Remember, trying to build a community here, but I need your help to do it. That's gonna be all for me. I'll catch you on the next one. And always remember, One Piece, one life. What are y'all betting Rox's bounty to be? I'd say at this point in the flashback, after he just killed the Admiral, it'll probably be about 3 billion. But I would say his final bounty before death may have been 6 billion. Because the way that Goro Wase, the whole numbers to letters thing in Japanese works, is that Rokusu has Roku in it, and that means 6. So I could see a pun where Oda uses that and says his bounty was to even Steven 6 billion. And I know people will complain, oh, but the people say that Roger has the highest pirating bounty ever. Well, for one, the people in the world of One Piece are stupid. And for 2, you're forgetting that the government is actively trying to scrub any and all existence of Rox from the database. All I'm saying is if he pops out with something higher than Roger, don't be surprised.